Hi,
Hi, Joel.
how's
Hi,
everything there?
Lisbon.
Yes, I think we are ready here. Let's get things going. Hello everyone. Welcome to the 39th Above and Beyond Hangout. I'm João Moreira Pires, your host here in Lisbon, and in Porto is Marilia Santos. Marilia, how's everything over there?
Hi, João. Thank you for the introduction. Everyone is great here, so we are just starting. So it is my pleasure today to introduce you to some brief notes. Today we'll be talking about the SIM conference next week, but before we go into it, let me grab my notes and share with you a few topics. So, first thing first, in this hangout, we have a special prize for you. We have 5 free tickets to give away to 5 lucky people. So please scan the QR code we will share on the TV. Can you please put on the TV? Yes, okay, great.
Scan it for a free
So
ticket.
just scan it. We'll then raffle the tickets, and by the end of this hangout, we will basically announce the big winners. So we have 5 free tickets. The ones that do not get the free tickets, we still have a discount code to share with you that is Hangout39, all caps. I just arranging my micro. So Hangout39, I think we can share it also on our TV, all caps. Okay, so second note, as I was saying in the beginning, next week, SIM conference will take place, SIM conference 2025 here in Porto. It's at the 8th and 9th of May. It will be 2 days of high impact connections. We have a really huge agenda with top speakers, many more speakers than last year, around 80% more investors. So a lot of things will happen. Feel free to go to the website and search for the agenda. Finally, as we speak, we are closing our participation in another great edition of Web Summit Rio in Brazil, where we spearheaded the Portuguese delegation of startups who went through our Business Abroad program. And we are really rooting for their success in Brazil and beyond. Next month, our Business Abroad program will be heading to Web Summit Vancouver in Canada. Keep tuned for more updates. So now I'm heading over to João because he will be introducing our first speech in Lisbon.
Thank you,
Go ahead,
Marilia.
João.
Thank you so much, Marilia. So now let's move on to the startups pitching today. To start, here in Lisbon, please welcome Tiago Vidigal, co-founder and CTO of Grow Happy.
All right, all good? Slides. Let me check. Just a quick test. All good? I don't think this one is on, so. Do outro lado. Yeah. And we're good to go. All right, nice. Nice to meet you. So, my name is Tiago. I'm one of the co-founders at Grow Happy. Really happy to have the opportunity here to show you a little bit how we're revolutionizing early education with the power of AI. So, kicking off with some story, I'm sure everyone knows who the person on the slide is, but what isn't so much popular knowledge is that Einstein actually had trouble going through school. For a child with a brilliant mind, it didn't really have access to personalized education, and it didn't have the right engagement from his parents on his academic development. So in the end, not only did Einstein not like school, he even ended up dropping out of it. So if we had his time machine, one of his childhood dreams, and we traveled back in time, what we would find obviously is no matter where we landed in the education journey, teachers complaining about too much bureaucratic work, burnout situations, and essentially no tools available to drive personalized education. So let's instead travel to the future, more specifically to the future of education, where we can let our imagination guide us on how things should be. For example, teachers should get help from technology on accessing all of the known data, metrics, challenges, and achievements of every child every time they have to sit down and plan how to develop that child. Essentially, technology compensating for the limits of the human mind when a teacher often has more than 20 kids in a single classroom. Teachers should get help from technology on even daily routines, planning activities, dealing with behavioral, emotional, even health challenges that happen at school, and just being able to communicate more efficiently with the parents, right? And ultimately, they should have access to an assistant where they can place any question about education, methodologies, or place complex questions about a single child or an entire classroom. And if we're talking about an assistant, who has time to type? I mean, why not just talk to it and save every extra second so that they can actually be in the classroom with the kids? We believe a child's diary, where you track all the routines, it should be digital, not on paper, so that you can grow a data lake where over time you can extract powerful insights for both families and teachers. And if we're talking about, sharing pictures or videos with the families, which happens every day, it should come, things like compliance and privacy should come automated and without effort. So everyone, I welcome you to the future of education with GrowAppy, where everything I just showed you is actually already live today on over 400 schools, there we go, across 9 countries, where we are already impacting the lives of over 100,000 families. More than the economic impact, we are unlocking for the first time personalized education since early stage, with a potential to enhance by 30% the development of each child. We're B2B, okay? Schools are the ones subscribing the service. And, the 3 co-founders bootstrapped the whole company to 300 customers before fundraising, which we did last year. And later this year, we want to go for Series A just to go for even more geographies. Traction has been great. We're really in the honeymoon stage of a startup who just fundraised. So thanks for listening, and I invite you to join our mission to improve education in the world and bring schools closer to families. Thanks.
Nunu, thank you. So now for our second and last speech, please welcome Bruno Abreu, co-founder and CEO of Scubic.
Good. Yeah. Good afternoon. Sorry, guys. Good afternoon to everyone. It's very nice to be here. Today, I want to talk about water and how the water flows from our rivers into our homes. So, did you know that 4% of all the energy that we produce in this world is just for one thing? To capture, treat, and distribute water from the rivers into our homes. And 4% doesn't look that much, but in terms of CO2 emissions, is the equivalent of all the shipping industry in the world. So it's a very energy-intensive industry and very pollutant, but that's good. That's why we have very clean water in our homes. But as cities go complex and growth, we have control rooms similar to this one to control these water networks. And it's getting crazy because this human operator have access to enormous real-time data that they are not putting it to good use. It's too much data for a human to deal. So to help this human operator, we create what we call a virtual operator or Scubic. Scubic, it's an AI-driven water and energy management platform, but with co-pilot capabilities. And this is how we distinguish ourselves from our direct competition. Scubic has been tested over the last years in 3 different countries, 2 continents, and in every single one of them, we are keeping the water flowing and reducing their operational costs. And sometimes up to 21% on the energy bill. It's a lot of money at the end of the year. And at this moment, we have more than 3 million euros in the pipeline for future contracts, and we want to conquer the world. But for that, we have been in a long journey to arrive here. In the last years, we raised 650,000 euros plus some grants that we use to develop, test, and validate our solutions in different water utilities and in different markets. But now we want to raise 1.3 million euros to take our technology to the world, because again, we want to conquer the world. And for that, we need your help too. because next year we want to scale up this, and after that, developing new markets and new solutions for the water utilities. And just to wrap up, this is just a picture of the amazing team in Portugal and also in Brazil. We have data engineers, hydraulic engineers, developers, and of course, people with experience dealing with water utilities and working for water utilities. And that's it, guys. With Scubic, we will keep the water flowing with the minimal cost, with the minimal environmental impact. And with this, I'm not going to say we're going to save the world, but we're going to keep the world flowing around. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much. Okay, so now let's take a look on the investor side of SIM conference with a panel of experts. Starting in Porto, please welcome Lourdes Gramacho, President of Investors Portugal, and Fahima Farahi, co-founder and CEO of Wise World.
So here in Lisbon, please welcome Tosha, pre-seed investor at Olisipo Way.
Hi.
An applause for the man. And our moderator, content and programming manager of SIM Conference and the Startup Portugal's powerhouse, Patricia Roque.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me in Porto?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Hello, hello.
Okay, so very excited to be here today. In this pre-moment for the SIM conference, we're all excited and nervous.
Super excited.
So I wanted to start maybe by everyone presenting themselves, if that's possible. Tosha, can you please start?
Yes, so hello everyone, my name is Tosha. I'm a pre-seed investor in Olisipo Way, which is an early stage investor here based in Portugal. I'm also one of the founders of Angels Way, which is a democratized investment fund, so regulated by the CMVM, but with, let's say, some of the Web3 ethos that works like a DAO. I'm also the host of the business podcast called BeTalk, and between other projects of entrepreneurship and investment, and super excited to be here.
Okay, thank you. Fahima, can you please present yourself?
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm Fahima, and CEO of WiseWord. At WiseWord, we make human skills like communication and being measurable and turn them into action.
I think we're losing the connection.
Yes.
Fahima,
So-
sorry,
Yes.
could you repeat, please, because we lost the connection.
Yes, sure. So at WiseWord, we make human skills like communication, problem solving, and the rest of human skills measurable, and we turn them into actionable data for better decision making.
Okay, thank you. And Lourdes?
Again, I'm becoming a frequent presence here, but it's always a pleasure. Well, my name is Lourdes Gramacho. I'm of Beyond Venture Capital, an early stage investor, investing in Portugal and Spain. I'm also the president of Investors Portugal, which is the association of the early stage investors in Portugal. And we are now starting the second mandate, so I'm very eager to do good things for the ecosystem.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so I wanted to start with Fahima because one common thing that is said about investors is that you invest mainly in people.
Yes, always
First.
start by the founders.
Okay, so Fahima, can you tell me how do you make yourself stand out to your investors? And maybe there's a story you can share with us.
The story that at conference or
Yes,
general?
yes.
Yeah, what happened to us last year around the same time? we were actually securing our pre-seed round, and we were actually in the process of like first angel investor here in Porto. And so we signed the agreement, and we were waiting for him to wire the money, the most important part of the process. And in the first day, early actually hours of SIM conference, he was there, and so we were presenting our startup to other actually visitors, different investors. And I believe the engagement that we got in the early hours of SIM conference gave him this confidence that so this is the right startup, right founders, and so he wired the money. And so it was a very interesting day for us because that money helped us to go beyond the MVP version. And so, I think it was very helpful for us to be here now.
Okay, and what is the thing that you that is important for you to show, that you think is important for you to show the investor to make them comfortable with the decision of investing in you?
Yeah. So generally, I can say that basically at events, events are a good place, good context to take the attention for the next actually meeting, because basically events are very crowded and it's not the right place to go in details. And so this is my experience, that you need to have very actually interesting connection, very interesting strategies to catch the attentions and book their time for the next actually meetings. And so this is, I think, is very game changer generally at all events.
Okay, Tasha, you were saying you were agreeing that you invest in people first.
Yes.
Do you want to comment on that?
Yes, I think it's from the investor's perspective, I think it's important for the founders. Actually, that was the base why we launched Angel's Way, for founders and all the people could be on the side of an investor, understand how investors think. So I think it's important for founders to understand what is the motivation for investors, right? And so the motivation on why you're investing in startups, it's not a financial motivation, because startups is not the best asset to make a lot of money. There are much better ways to make money as an investor. So when investors are investing in startups, they are investing in passion. They are investing in people. They are investing in exciting stuff, being part of exciting projects and new projects and services that are being built. And so, of course, I think Fahima was saying it exactly right, which is when you create a relationship with somebody, you're essentially inspiring them to your dream, to what you want to build. And so that's why when you're investing in early stage, pre-seed, like we invest, the investors that are on the panel, we're looking for the people and for the passion of the people. Of course, the business plan has to make sense, the company has to make sense, because most investors are managing other people's money. And so you have to have a return, or at least really try to have a return. But investors want to have this connection, so they want to see if people have the passion, so that they can also become passionate about their project and then invest, because it's not only about money, right? You want the money, but then you want support to develop your business. And so this relationship is very important, not only for founders, but also for investors. Like, I want to have a connection with the people with whom I invest. And so relationships and people are essential in this business, especially early stage.
So you'd say that passion is one of the things that keeps the conversation going, at least for you, it's a thing that you spot on a founder. What are other traits or characteristics or things that you identify that really
makes me
get
want
your
to invest.
attention? Yes.
Yeah. I think passion is really important. If you understand, for example, for me, what are the jobs of a founder, right? For me, a founder has 3 jobs. One is to put the vision and inspire people, inspire not only the investors, inspire the clients, and inspire the people who are going to work with you in the startup, right? The second thing is not running out of money. So in order not to run out of money, you have to understand how to manage a business, how to manage money, how to manage risk, right? And third, it's really important that you go into the sales, and when you go to the sales and you want to inspire people, you have to have a vision, that you're compelled with that vision. And so when I'm looking for a founder, I'm looking for somebody who understands this. It's not like somebody who's going to be doing everything. I'm hoping that when the company grows, you'll have a team. And this team will be taking care of technology, taking care of operations and all of that. And you as a founder, you have to take care of the talent, hiring, you have to inspire people, and you have to be able to not run out of money. So how do you assess these skills? It's very difficult, right? So that's why investing in startup is really difficult. This is not like a science. I don't have a checklist. When I'm talking with somebody, I say, okay, check, check, checked. This is, like Naval likes to say, specific knowledge. With experience, you start feeling, okay, I feel this, yes, I think this founder has what it takes to build a successful business. And most of the times, investors get it wrong.
Yeah. Okay, glad to know. Okay, so Lourdes, a question for you. What is something that you think founders misunderstand about smart money? So what should founders look for in investors besides the money? Is there
Well,
something they should expect?
I think that mentioned several important things. When we invest, we are investing for a long period, usually. Well, sometimes we are lucky, we can leave earlier, but we know that we are going to invest in a relationship that will take us more than a couple of years, 5 years, sometimes more. Which means that for both sides, there has to have a click. Both we have to understand the investment, we believe in that. We also need some figures, of course. We evaluate the people. The team is very important. They have to have passion, but they also have to have resilience, know-how. They have to have a lot of characteristics and combined characteristics that makes us believing that they will succeed. But also from the side of the founders, they have to look for the investors that has also, they feel some empathy, that they think that they can help them in the future. So they should also evaluate very well, if they don't have the rope around the neck, that it's the correct investors that will go along with them during the period they are as investors in the company, as shareholders. And then they have to see if we can help them in helping them on the strategy, that we can also help them in sales and marketing, open our networks, that our networks are sufficient or good enough to open doors. That we also can help in a structuring process. It's very important. Also defined more in strategy, what kind of geographies they should go, helping them to build a culture inside the company. Also on human resources, we can help them hiring, organizing the remuneration package, for instance. And most important, I think, is that early stage investors always used to go in very early stage. Can be pre-seed, can be seed, can be, more on this area, but on this level of the company. But they have to prepare the next rounds, because a startup is that. They always need the next round. And so they also have to see if the investors that are coming in can help them on that. Okay. On looking to the materials for the pitch, for the pitching, also opening their networks on connections with other investors that can succeed on the rounds. So I think that it's very important. Smart money is really giving reliable and important help to the companies for growing. If they want, of course. It's always the same.
Sure. Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask Fahima, is where do you draw the line? So, and also I'd like to have your take on this, is like how much should the investor be involved in the operations of the startup?
It depends a lot. I'm sorry
No,
to,
no, yes,
sorry,
please.
sorry
No.
to.
No, 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 please.
We can
No,
have
no, it's
everyone
okay.
talk
I,
in
I
this
follow
one.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's always interesting to, you know, have insights from investors, of course, because they are actually have more actually wider understanding of what is happening to, you know, to a long journey that you are going through, you know, because they have experienced it through different startups. So they have the experience. And on the other side, you know, you as a founder are the only person that you are focused on the day-to-day interactions of your business. And so there are some nuances that only you as a founder can make decision and can actually, you know,
You are.
because you are supposed to be agile, you know, on your decision making. And so you need to be focused on your day-to-day interaction. So I believe the resources and the smart money that was mentioned are, of course, actually important, and I think is part of the decision-making process for the founders to say, okay, besides the money that they receive, how smart money can be helpful, especially in early days, how investors can open market for you, how they can actually help you to reach to the target audience. So they are important, but I'm saying, you know, they are only external resources for your day-to-day decision. Founders are the only people that know the details, nuances, and they are supposed to make decisions about them.
Okay.
I think she's absolutely correct
Okay.
because the companies are mainly from the founders. We can only help.
Okay.
And our help is only when, well, if needed. And that's for sure.
Do you wanna?
Yes, I think I would like to make a comparison. Like you have the problem of the chicken and the egg. What came first, the founders or the investors? Venture capital wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the founders. This is not like the chicken and the egg problem. Like it starts with the founders. You don't have investment if there are no founders. So that means that the founders are the beginning. And if the founders are the beginning, investment money is like gasoline on a fire. So if you don't have a fire, gasoline is worthless to make a bigger fire. You need to have a fire, and this fire comes from the entrepreneurs and the founders that are building the companies. That means that the investors are not necessarily a key part to make you an entrepreneur. You have to be an entrepreneur by itself, and then you use venture capital money, know-how, network, all of these things as gasoline on your fire. I see many founders sometimes go to investors and say, oh, I'm looking for an investor because I need help to build my company. That's a turn off. Investors don't want to build companies. Investors don't want to be operational in companies. Right? There's a class for that, which are, for example, business angels, who are people who invest earlier on. They invest in less companies, like 3, 4, 5, 6, 10. When they invest in more than 5 or 6 companies, business angels are already investors. You'll see them with a portfolio of 40 or 50 companies. They are not helping operationally on the company. Okay? That's like business angels that focus on small investments. VCs, on the other hand, they have big portfolios. Like if you have an investment like in Olisipo, you have more than 60 companies. Like I cannot be operational in 60 companies. What I can do is when there is a problem, where I can support the founder to make a decision, to basically give him new ideas, think about different things, that's when I come in. And I say, oh, I had this experience in this or that company. Why don't you try this? Why don't you talk with that person? Why don't you do this? I never tell them like, do this. Because that's not what I'm investing. I'm investing in the people. We said we're investing in the person. So if we're investing in the person, we're investing in what are these founders' ideas, right? And to be a founder, there's a very difficult balance to do. On one hand, you don't want to be the founder that doesn't listen to feedback and is completely convinced on his own vision, and he only wants to do that regardless of the feedback. But on the other hand, you don't want a founder that when he hears some feedback, he immediately changes his course and then said, oh, that's a good idea, now I'm going to do that. So to be a good founder, you have to have a balance between these two, which is you have to listen, but then you have to follow your gut and do what you think is right. But that means also asking the right questions, because sometimes investors don't know what's in your head. and you need to verbalize the right questions, the right problems, so that they can externalize their experience so that you can make a decision.
And with this, I think I can jump into the next question, that what should founders prepare best for after the round? So is there any like common mistake or assumption or some kind of expectation founders have after the first round?
I think a common mistake after a round is to ghost the investor. So like you start a relationship because you want the investment. You have a lot of meetings, then you get the money and you say, now I'm going to focus on my business. And then you kind of start forgetting the investors. Maybe this applies more to early stage investing because there isn't much structure in the company, like a board, reports monthly, every 3 months, 6 months, etc. So early stage, sometimes founders forget the investor. They forget to get the most out of an investor. And I would add, they forget to create relationships between their own investors. Right? If an investor invests in a company, all the other investors that invested in that company, now we are on the same team.
Okay.
And it should be the founder who organizes ways for the investors to start communicating with each other. Because if they communicate more, they will help the company more. So I think the post-investment, that was probably the biggest mistake that I see happening, because it just leaves value on the table.
Okay. Lutz, do you have anything to add?
Well, I think that when in a post-round moment, they have to start, besides using correctly the money they received, they have to start immediately preparing the next round. And that means that also they have to keep on with the good relations to investors and always pitching. They should take all the opportunities to gather more interest in the company for future rounds. This is, I think, the task that all founders should keep in mind, that as important as running the business very well, of course, it's keeping relations with investors, preparing the next rounds that will always happen, at least on this early stage.
Okay. Fahima, is there anything that you wish your investor would have asked you before doing the investment?
One thing that, especially in earlier stages, like, pre-seed round, I believe, as Tosha mentioned, that majority of the actually investors are supposed to be focused on the teams, because there is nothing else except teams, There is no revenue, there is no actually market fit, nothing, only people. And the point is, I have experienced it that, when they come to people side, they are still asking for planning. So how you get your actually first revenue, and then after revenue, how you make it sustainable. Okay, and then after that, how you make it actually to the market fit. The same actually questions that are not related to the people. It's about, again, product, market, and the strategies. I believe when it comes to the people, they should check the actually longevity strategies of the founders, because as Tosha mentioned, if you can't survive the journey, you would fail, and the most important thing that you as a founder are supposed to do is to survive the journey. And so in order to survive, you need to have actually a strategy financially and actually a mindset to survive. And so one thing that, for example, I wish that pre-seed investors at least ask is, how come you are here? For example, you are working on this project for 2 years. How you are surviving, in these 2 years, as a pre-seed in a startup, and how you want to continue it. Imagine you don't have the money. Okay, how you want to continue? This question, I believe, shows the resilience and the longevity plan of the startup. And so I think this is the perspective that majority of pre-seed investors don't consider it when they are communicating with the startup in earlier stages at least.
Okay. Do you agree?
Yeah, I not only agree, but I think some investors do not understand this and they start focusing too much on planning. Like you're here, a founder to pitch, instead of you. For example, there is a question which is, how do you see your company in 10 years? And it may be confused with what Fahima was saying, which is the investor is not trying to ask you like what's going to be the business plan, etc. They start trying to understand your vision. And again, it comes back to the passion that I was telling you about. Like, how do you see the world in 10 years? Because we're building startups. Startups will take time to grow. They will be mature in the market in 8 years, 10 years. We know that in 10 years, the world changes a lot, right? So what happened in the last 5 years in the world? It changed completely. And so when they're asking these questions, they want to understand your vision. And so sometimes early stage investors, they focus too much on trying to get some metrics which are not realistic for a pre-seed company or an early stage company, which is like, how are you going to acquire the clients? The correct answer from the founder is, I have no idea. How many clients will you have after 2 years? I have no idea, right? So this is the reality, because founders don't know. You cannot know what you don't know. Like you're trying to implement something. What the question should be is, how are you going to react in this kind of situation? So, okay, what's the distribution plan? Oh, I'm going this way. Okay, if that doesn't work, what happens? What are the risks that can happen for that strategy not to work? How can you mitigate those risks? Have you talked with people? Have you started talking with clients? So all of this is a mitigation of risk. Building a startup is a mitigation of risk. So having the right questions is very important for an investor. If you're a founder, pushing the conversation into the right path, it's also important. Like you don't have to be afraid of saying, what's the product going to look like in 3 years? I don't know. I'm not worried about that. What I'm worried right now is to prove this, this, and this, because this will mitigate the risk, which will allow me to show the next investor, like Lourdes was saying, is very important. Startups go on a stairs, right? So you do the pre-seed, then you have to do the seed, then you have to do the Series A. And so how are you going to mitigate the risk for the next investors to come into your startups? So these are the right questions.
Okay. Thank you. So I have two final questions. So everyone in the audience can prepare if you have questions for our Q&A timing. So if founders could focus on one thing only when raising capital, what should it be? This is a question for everyone.
Let's start with Porto.
Sorry, I was thinking in your question.
I can...
Your answer, but you said what? Sorry.
If founders could focus in one thing only when raising capital, what should it be?
Well, I think they have many things to focus on, not only one.
Well, but the most important?
The most important is to be sure that they are transmitting their message, that they are showing exactly what they need and what they want and what they dream of, what is really their project. And this is very important, preparing the materials and preparing the pitch to investors, because the initial, the first impression is very determining the future of the relation. So they really have to be convincing. And that's why I always say, and I understand the answer of Fatima more on a personal way, because really this is very stressful. To be a founder is a lot, sweat and tears, and they need really to show the resilience and to show on sometimes 5 minutes what their value is, and that is the most important thing. So really they have to focus on showing, probably this is most important, showing exactly what they are and what they need. So this is the first impression is very, very important.
Yes.
So be prepared.
Yes, I can say through my experience, one of the main thing that I noticed that, especially for early stages, you should be actually very fast to close the round. Otherwise it's like selling two different things to different personas. And it's totally time consuming for actually for a small team. In case of ourselves, I can say that part of my job is selling to customers and the other part is selling to investors, and it's very challenging because two different sales sessions and different actually focuses. So I think founders need to put the deadline and close the round fast, and then get focused on the main part of the job, that is finding the right customers and selling to them and grow the business. And so this is what I noticed.
I think I would compare it to a marriage. What is the most important thing in a marriage? Is to find the right partner. So I think what Lourdes is saying, Fahim, it goes to the same place, which is how to find the right fit. All startups are different, all founders are different, all investors are different, and the people who are managing the VC or the investor are also different. And so you need to focus on finding the right partner for your company, right? And the earlier it is, the more important it is, because the investor can help you more. Just because somebody invests, for example, I'm an investor, I can hear a good pitch and say, I think this can be a good startup, but I will not invest because it's not a fit for me, right? And I think sometimes founders forget about this. Like I said, chicken and the egg. Founders come first. So what is the right fit of investor for you? Like, focus on that. That's the most important thing. Like when Lourdes is saying, you have to have the right pitch, say the right things. What she's saying is, you have to be honest with what you are building so that the investor that is listening understands if you are a fit for him, and you can also understand if he's a fit for you. So for me, the number one thing, just having the right fit between founder and investor. There are a lot of startups, there are a lot of investors, so let's just connect the right ones.
Okay, thank you. So, and now for the last question. What do you think will be the next big startup story? Which sectors should we pay attention to, and why?
That's easy, it's AI. Because AI is everything.
Lourdes?
I'm not mentioning startups in particular, but really I think that Portugal at the moment has a lot of good startups that we'll see some good cases this year for sure. But I will not mention one or two. Don't ask me that. It's not.
But
I
any
will not
sectors
do
that we
that.
should
But
look
I really
into?
think that we had in a very good period, and there will be success cases this year and the years to come.
Okay, great. Fahima?
Yes,
Besides
definitely.
your, of
Yeah,
course.
no, definitely,
That's
it's
different.
soft skills market. Yeah, but no, I don't want to actually promote ourselves, but I believe job market is changing, and everything that we are actually doing at work is changing, and it's a market that hasn't changed for a long time, and I believe it's and it gets actually disrupted through actually AI development, and so I think we would see different changes, and also in education generally. I believe new generation would not accept the way that we were educated, and so we would see huge changes in education as well.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I don't know if there's any questions in the room here or in Porto. Okay, there's a question here.
Porto?
First,
There's a question here in Lisbon.
Lisbon 1-0.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for having us. Yes, for you, sir, I very
Tasha.
much, yes, thank you. I very much resonate with a whole lot of things you said, particularly about, the marriage between founders and all of that. I mean, so now let me paint a very quick scenario. A is married to B, B discards A, B discards A, B is left alone. do you think, as an investor, you see B standing alone? I'm asking for a friend, anyways.
So
you see,
A, B, and C are co-founders?
no, A and B discards A. B is left alone now in the chase to build a successful startup. Do you think, as an investor, or let me rephrase, how would you take B standing alone, knowing fully well that B is doing fair enough? Because I always preach the power behind, co-founding. So if you now see B standing alone, building the startup, what would be your general perspective?
Yeah, there are a lot of investors don't like solo founders. That's what you're talking about, right? It's very hard to build a startup, very, very hard. It's even harder to build it by yourself. Still, there are success stories of solo founders, right? So I think, actually, in the big picture, that doesn't matter. It just matters what you are building, what you believe, what the B is building, what B believes, if he's resilient, if he has luck also. Luck is also part of building a company. If he finds the right partners, if he inspires the right team, if he builds the right product, finds the right distribution channels, finds the clients, I think it doesn't matter so much. It's easier when you have a co-founder. It's better to have to be solo than to have a bad co-founder. I think that ends well. Yeah.
Okay, and now for Porto, are there any questions in Porto?
Okay. I would like to know if you know many entrepreneurs or startups that are working on projects based on solutions for the health sector using IA.
Many.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are in different areas, yes.
Yes, because I am particularly interested in using IA, machine learning algorithms, to make analysis of medical image, because, for example, when a doctor, a specialist, look at an X-ray, they look only what his eyes can see. But maybe in this image, you can detect any other patterns that only it could be possible to discover with machine learning algorithms. I'm thinking something about this to improve the diagnosis of medical when they analyze some image. Because maybe the patient, many patient, he's going to analyze my image and he's going to say, you have this. But maybe if you have a very good algorithm.
Yes, this already sounds like a pitch. Not a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, it's only in this field, specific analysis of image. You know some startups working on it?
Do you want to?
Yes, several
maybe.
startups.
Do you have some examples?
Tell us, Fahima.
Can help you. Yeah, I can say ChatGPT maybe can help you, deep research, and then you will find deep understanding of the market or growth deeper search.
Yeah, I think it's sometimes we as founders believe nobody else is working on what we are working. There's only two outcomes. Either you're completely wrong, which is the most likely, because somebody probably is building the same thing that you are building. If nobody is building what you are building, there's only two outcomes. The most probable outcome is nobody needs that. So you are building something that's useless, somebody tried and failed and you can find them, or in a very, very, very rare case, you're building a mega incredible company.
Well, let's hope it's the last one. Okay, great. So we have another question here.
I have a question for Wise World. Two questions. How much time did it took from thinking about an idea, implemented it, and start thinking about and start searching about investors? And also, how do you manage the work between managing the company, paying the taxes, managing the team, and do all the work trying to find the best match, the best marriage, like Tosha is saying? Because I think that's overwhelming, I think.
For me, yeah, okay.
founder.
So I can say that maybe because of this, it's not a good idea to be a solo founder,
Yeah.
because then you can share a lot with your co-founders, and so you can share mentally, the pressure that you have, and also the task. For example, in our team, we are 3 co-founders, and I'm in charge of the business. I have another co-founder in charge of the tech, and another in charge of the product. So you can see that, it helps us to have less pressure in the marathon that we are actually running. And so this is my strategy and my suggestion to you, to actually find the right co-founder to actually rely on, and actually to share the pressure of the journey. And so it was a couple of questions. And
Also the time
Paying taxes.
to start with the idea, building the
Ah.
first.
The time
Okay.
it took,
The
yeah.
time.
Yeah, the time. So it's like 2 years that we are in the market, and so I can say, like 2 weeks later, it's our 2nd anniversary for Wise World, and so yeah, 2 years ago, around the same time, we were actually talking about the idea. So Wise World was just the idea, and so we released the first MVP by the end of the summer. Like 3 months coding and ideation, very first actually version, and then actually tested in the market with real customers. We got feedback, and so we were in the market like for 3 to 4 months, and then according to the feedback that we received, we started to work on the new version, and then again actually releasing the new version, testing with the market. So this is the loop that keep repeating itself. And so this is the whole point, that you have idea to actually product, and so you are supposed to test it and make it better, and it never ends. And so this is the day-to-day task actually. And yeah, and so I think I believe it's very sad journey to be a solo founder. This is my idea, because the pressure is so high, as you mentioned. For example, for my day-to-day task, I'm supposed to take care of tax and a startup recognition, a new task for you, and especially for you, as for me as an immigrant, it was too much pressure, because I don't speak Portuguese, unfortunately, yet, and so I'm managing different actually hurdles like this, and also many accounting tasks. So they are actually tasks that you have that they are not interesting, but at the same time, it's very interesting for me when I'm talking with customers, when I'm actually doing the marketing and developing the products. So these are interesting parts. Tax and accounting is not very interesting.
Okay, thank you,
for who.
Fahima. Yeah.
Can I add something
Yes.
on that? I think if you're looking for like a recipe, there's no recipe, right? You have to look at yourself. What's the reality for you? OpenAI was developing for 6 years, right? There are companies who are developing for 2 weeks. There is no like recipe. You have to feel when you are right to talk with investors, but you can start talking to investors immediately without raising, like asking, this is what I'm building, this is the problem I'm solving. Does it excite you? Yeah, that looks cool. What would you like to see for you to invest in my company? Like, you can have these conversations. And normally it will say, well, I would like to see some traction. I would like to see that clients want to buy your product. I would like to onboard 2, 3, 5, 6, 10 clients and give some feedback about your product, that your product is awesome, that is sticky, that they want to use it. It's more or less the same, but you have to feel for your own startup. All our startups are different.
Yeah, I can actually mention that there is a very famous graph that shows, for example, a product like Figma. It took like I don't know, 10 years to get to the market fit. So, but there are actually lots of startups that get to the market fit in less than a year. So, as was mentioned, the journey is not really fixed. So it depends to your product, your market, the solution. Everything is actually different.
Yeah, if it's deep tech, it takes a long time to go to
Sure.
from university to to a product.
Yeah, but in the whole
It
journey,
depends a lot.
yeah, the point is you should survive. I think this is the main important thing that we need to learn, that we are supposed to survive. And so I think there is a very famous quote by CEO of Airbnb that founders supposed to be a cockroach. You know, this is the only actually creatures that survive under any circumstances, and so we are supposed to be cockroach.
Okay. So thank you, everyone. I would ask for a round of applause for our panelists today. There's another thing.
Question. Can we have one more?
There's another
I'm
question.
sorry.
Okay. Just one more.
Okay, the last
So
one
we can
here.
have 2 applauses.
Yes.
So investors, at least in my opinion, love B2B companies, love even more B2C because they can go unicorn very, very fast. But nowadays we see B2G, B2 governments with public entities. And investors, again, from my opinion, don't hate. Try to run from those type of startups. Startups that want to build solutions that will work with, let's call it public companies. What's your best advice that you can give to this type of startups besides running? This is for the investors.
Selling
It depends a
B2B.
lot. Yeah, well, we have experience, for instance, in Portugal and Spain as investors, and in Portugal is much more B2B for sure, and in Spain is B2C, but it's natural. They have a much bigger consumers market than, but you mean to public companies, to public B2G. Well, to be frank with you, usually the problem is that it takes much more time. Besides taking much more time, it's much more difficult to build a company only based on governmental connections. But it depends a lot. We have now, for instance, we are talking about investing in defense, in dual purpose technology. This will have a lot to do with government and public entities, and it depends a lot. It has to be evaluated case by case. On a case by case, it can be very interesting.
Yeah.
So I cannot tell you what kind of, but we prefer always, I'm talking for myself, on terms of we prefer always that it has more than one client or one type of client is always better.
Yeah, I think it all comes back to risk, right? So what Lourdes is saying, when you're selling B2G, you're selling to government entities, how many government entities there are, how long do they take to close a sale, right? If they take a long time and there are not many organizations, it means the risk for your company is higher because you have less clients. So the advice I would give if I was building a B2G company is it possible to create a B2B part? Like to mitigate risk. What you want is to mitigate risk. If you cannot do B2B, no, there are no businesses that will buy my product. This is only for governments. Okay, so can you start talking with organizations earlier and getting the maximum commitment possible? What you want is come to me that I don't understand anything about your business and saying, look, Tasha, I have already these people lined up. I have these contacts. I have these contracts. I have these meetings. You want to lower the risk for me, right? So that is your goal. And for example, in defense now, who will be buying stuff in defense? It's mostly armies, right? So it's governments. And the amount of clients is really small. But they have another thing, which is they have a lot of money, right? Yeah. So in your area, you're building water management solutions. I look at the future and I think how much money will be there for water management solution versus drones. I think there will be a lot more money for drones, unfortunately, right? And so, of course, for the investor, the risk is lower to invest in drones. So it's all about risk. You just think, how can you mitigate risk? That's the best answer I can give.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now another round of applause, the second one. So this was just a sneak peek of what we'll be discussing next week at SIM conference. We'll be discussing the relationship between founder and investor, the trends for investment, trends in technology. So you're all invited to be there, and we're very excited to prepare it and host it for you. And have a great networking now, and let us know if you have any questions in the networking time.
Or in social media.
Or in social media, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Tosha, and thank you, Lourdes and Fahima. So now it is my pleasure to announce the 5 winners of the 5 free tickets for SIM conference. And in Lisbon, okay, let me see. In Lisbon, they are the Henneberger. Say it wrong, I'm not sure. Okay, great. Second one, Tihani Olantunji. Tihani. Okay, great. And Pedro del Rio. Okay, great. So now here in Porto, we have the winners Bruna Abreu. Wow. And Denti. Great. So we have 5 winners. Joel, heading to Porto, to Lisbon. I'm sorry, we are in Porto, to Lisbon, to close this hangout. Hand over to you.
Can you hear me there? I'm not sure if this is on.
Hear me, Joel?
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. I had no feedback, sorry. So.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you so much. Let's let me just share the gratitude of Startup Portugal to our partners who make these events possible. So please applaud Investors Portugal, 351 Portuguese Startup Community, UPTech, Porto City Council, Sograt, and Superwork Group. And now, don't forget, you have a discount code for being in this hangout, so if you are not one of the lucky winners, you can still grab a great discount for a SIM conference ticket. Hangout 3939, all caps. It was a pleasure to be your host here, and thank you so much for running the show there, Marilia. Let's have a great evening and connect.